Welcome to the pharmaphorum podcast. This is web editor Nicole Raleigh, and today I have with me Shawn Hodges, CEO of Revelation Pharma, a nationwide network of 503A and 503B compounding pharmacies, spanning across various locations. Welcome, Shawn.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So drug shortages are a critical issue in the US, leaving patients and healthcare providers struggling. Compounding pharmacies, however, can curb drug shortages and help lessen this growing threat to the public's health. And Shawn will be discussing this topic in today's episode. Before that, however, as listeners have come to expect, Shawn, I'd like to ask you, as a recognized leader in your field with over 25 years of experience in pharma, to introduce yourself more fully and give us a little taste of the journey that has led you to today with Revelation Pharma.
I'll be happy to. Thank you so much. Yep, my name is Shawn Hodges. I am a practicing pharmacist. I've been a pharmacist since 2001, graduated pharmacy school in 2001. Actually started out as a pharmacy technician in 1996 and made my first compound back there, I guess almost 30 years ago. As soon as I graduated pharmacy school, I took a 1 year fellowship position in the pharmaceutical industry, studying regulatory affairs with a company called Eli Lilly, and studied how the drug approval process worked and how Lilly interfaced with the FDA. After that contract expired, I took a position with a national hospice mail order pharmacy, back then called Hospice Pharmacia, and got to work with physicians about how to use compounded medications in the hospice space, especially for patients with unique diseases that unfortunately are not able to take, say, oral therapies. We can convert those into an alternative dosage form like a cream, capsule, or lotion. As I'm sitting with my wife in a restaurant talking about hospice compounding and my desire to open up my own compounding pharmacy, there was in the booth, a gentleman in the booth next to us at a restaurant, and he said, "Yes, I hear that you're interested in buying a compounding pharmacy. I actually have a compounding pharmacy, and I'm looking to sell it." So we bought that off of him 2007 in a small little pharmacy. I started innovation compounding. We grew to be licensed in 50 states, providing both sterile and non-sterile formulations. Eventually sold that to what is now Revelation Pharma. Revelation Pharma is a holding company, which I run now. We have 20 pharmacies across the US. We have a 503A network. We have a 503B facility. We also had a wholesale company. We also have a consulting company. So all of that resides under the Revelation umbrella. And we are here to primarily focus on promoting the profession of pharmacy compounding by elevating the standards and the quality for each of our facilities.
Thank you, Shawn. So just in case listeners are unaware, can you perhaps set the scene for us? What's the true state of drug shortages in the US at the moment, and what has the adverse impact been on patients and healthcare providers, or HCPs?
Yeah, it's been a problem. I think COVID, about 5 years ago, COVID has really accelerated drug shortages. I think it really sort of exposed sort of the supply chain issues, especially back then. Obviously, back then we had an urgent need for certain anti-infective therapies, pain management therapies, and unfortunately, because of the way the supply chain is built, and unfortunately is currently built today, it's still very difficult for hospitals to obtain these medications. So even today, there's been a little bit of a plateau, if you will. I think it's still an unfortunate over 350 drugs, I believe, are on the shortage list now. But and those range from anti-infective therapies, pain management, certain labor and delivery medications. And so we're starting to see certain supply chain issues continue. And it's for various reasons. I don't think that this is something that we'll be able to had a single bill or a policy that will fix everything. I think it requires a lot of key players to come together to identify how to solve a lot of these issues.
Thank you. Yes, it's more complicated than it at first seems. So let's discuss how compounding can help bridge the gap during such drug shortages. What was the essential role compounding played during COVID-19 specifically, as you brought up that example a moment ago?
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting case study, and it actually shows how compounders can help going forward. So when COVID obviously happened, and we had a massive supply chain, actually Innovation Compounding, the pharmacy that I ran, worked very closely with the FDA, the State Board of Pharmacy here in Georgia, a couple of other boards of pharmacy, even the DEA, to essentially repurpose ourselves for about a limited time, for about 6 weeks, to provide those drugs to treat conditions related to drug shortages. So certain, IV pain medications, obviously anti-infectives. These are products that are designed to be shipped straight from the pharmacy to the local health systems here. And so here in Atlanta, we had Emory, we had Northside, we had Wellstar, Children's Healthcare, all are in desperate need of these medications. And so that was one of the few times that I was really proud of just working with both the government, federal and state side, as well as through ourselves to come up with a game plan with relatively short order of time, about 3 weeks to provide these products. The purpose was to serve the need just for the urgent care situations until the manufacturers were able to keep up the pace. And so, we entered into it. We provide the product for, say, 2 to 3 months, and then we're able to exit. And then the drug companies then were able to take over supply chain. It actually, in that regard, and yes, obviously COVID is an issue, but in that regard, we were able to serve those needs in a pretty timely manner. And I'm still curious today why we can't apply those concepts going forward. These are still health systems. They are reporting drug shortages, ASHP, that has its American System of Health Pharmacists. They are, acutely aware of what's going on in the health systems in terms of drug shortages. And, we have a network of 503A and 503B pharmacies that are standing on the sidelines saying we are able to help if the regulations allowed us to do so.
So, is there another example you'd like to share where compounding can help?
Yeah, I think in terms of if you looked at what happened a couple of years ago, there were, a tornado had hit a manufacturing facility in Raleigh, North Carolina, and IV solutions themselves were on immediate back order. There was a time where 503B specifically facilities could have been able to provide that product. But unfortunately, what we're seeing is that they themselves are a little hesitant in providing coverage because there's an issue about when the drug goes on shortage and then when it comes off of shortage. And unfortunately, right now with 503Bs, as soon as that drug comes off of shortage, they essentially have to stop producing the product. That makes it very difficult for them to understand the size, the scope, the scalability, the return on investment. So unfortunately, there's not a clear pathway in terms of how to hand that back when a drug goes off shortage. How can that 503B successfully work with a pharmaceutical company to resume operations? That juncture, if you will, is still lacking, and there's not enough structure and there's not a clear pathway. And that's what we're seeking to resolve, with the intent of just serving it, if you will, as a band-aid, if anything else, until certain drug companies are able to provide those products on a price.
Thank you. Yes, as you say, the complexities are myriad. Let's maybe tunnel down into regulatory challenges now and also the opportunities for policy reform. What can you tell us there?
Yeah, we're starting to see over the past year, it has come up on the federal level through Congress. We have seen certain discussions with key folks, especially on the Energy and Commerce Committee, about talking about resolving drug shortages, and unfortunately, right now it's still on a discussion level. I think from my understanding and from what I've seen is that Congress is interested in solving this not so much as a supply chain, but as a security threat. So I think that because of that, that's actually rising to the top of the discussion, if you will. That there is some supply chain issues. Obviously, there's this tariff discussion that everybody is being mindful of as well, and that impacts supply chain. And so, because of that, I think this continues to be a discussion. I think they're still looking for stakeholder buy-in about how to solve some of these issues, understanding what the fine balance is, obviously the risks and benefits. But some of the policies are being thrown out. I think Senator Kane, I believe, is throwing out a bill or will be releasing a bill that discusses about how to successfully hand off, from when a drug is about to resume to go off the shortage list, and how a 503B could work with a pharmaceutical company, larger company, to resume production. And so that's what we're looking for. I think it's still some concepts have been thrown around, but not a full game plan has been developed just yet.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So, my last question today, Sean, looking to the future, what will be the place of compounding in 5 or 10 years' time in such a changing healthcare landscape?
Well, I'm hopeful that, on the drug shortage side, that, compounders and big pharmaceutical companies and the FDA can all work much more closely together to unify to serve the public need. I think that's the number one thing, and that's what holds us all to the same standard. The second, though, I think is that there's a movement that's going on right now about patients taking ownership of their own health and well-being, and that continues to grow. What's fascinating for us is that fits perfectly with compounding. That speaks to what we call personalized medicine, especially patients that are looking for wellness-based therapies. Patients are no longer interested in taking certain sleeping pills and they feel groggy the next day, or certain drugs that cause more side effects than good. And so that's where compounders come in. We're able to be tailored specific to meeting each individual patient's needs. And again, I think if we could have an open dialogue with both the pharmaceutical companies who they themselves may seek to personalize medicine, but then also the FDA to help create regulatory pathways to allow for us to further personalize medicine. I think the ultimate winner here is the patients. If we can help patients restore their wellness, they can feel better about themselves, remain productive members of their society, not having to go to a doctor or urgent care center to get the medical care, preventative care, if you will. That's where we think patients will ultimately win if we can work with the drug companies.
Thank you, Sean. It's been a
Yep.
pleasure.
Thank you.
And that concludes another episode of the pharmaphorum podcast. You can find more information about this episode, including a download link and information about previous installments at pharmaphorum.com/podcasts. The pharmaphorum podcast is also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Podbean, and pretty much wherever else you download your other podcasts from. Just search for pharmaphorum and follow and hit subscribe. Of course, don't forget to visit our website itself, where you can sign up for daily and weekly news and analysis bulletins. And do follow us on Blue Sky and LinkedIn at pharmaphorum. That's all for now. Thank you for listening.